The arena was a living monument to violence, a coliseum the size of a city, orbiting a red giant star like some ancient god demanding blood for warmth. Creatures from across the galaxy filled the seats, their eyes, many of them not eyes at all, fixed on the center ring. It was a pit of sand and metal, stained with the remains of champions and cowards alike. The audience had gathered to witness another spectacle, another massacre, another weakling fed to the machines of war. This time, the weakling was human. Jax Carter stood alone on the platform that hovered just above the arena floor. He wore a plain black jumpsuit, the kind used by cargo haulers or low-tier engineers. No armor, no weapons. The spotlight above him flickered, painting him as both target and joke. Around him, holographic ads flared in garish colors. Betting odds, weapon sponsors, pre-fight taunts from gladiators bred for slaughter. The screen read, Species, Homo sapiens. Origin, Earth. Status, voluntary. Expected survival time, 037. Laughter rolled like thunder through the crowd. The translator implants hummed with snide comments from a dozen species. He doesn't even have carapace shielding. Is this some kind of primitive mating display? Maybe he thinks this is a game. Jax didn't move. His eyes scanned the ring, measured the layout, the slope of the walls, the placement of the trap gates. No expression, no nerves. Just quiet, calculating observation. From a private box high above, Warlord Kelvor watched a human, with amusement. They actually sent one in, he mused, voice like crushed stone. A real one. No augmentations. No enhancements. Just skin and bones. Not even a weapon, his advisor murmured. Kelvor's lip curled. Give him something. A show needs drama. Moments later, a hunk of metal clattered onto the sand near Jax. A rusted plasma spear half melted, humming weakly. The arena AI announced it like a gift from the gods. The crowd roared approval. Jax stepped off the platform. Gravity shifted. The sand welcomed him with silence. He walked to the spear and picked it up. The handle buzzed, reacting to his touch. It was heavy, unbalanced, useless. He held on to it anyway. A gate slid open with a hiss like venom. From the darkness emerged a beast bred for nothing but war. 8 feet tall, armored in scale and horn, its eyes glowed with feral hunger. The crowd went silent. The creature was called Vordak. It had killed 17 contenders, crushed a cyborg in its last match. It didn't eat its enemies, it erased them. The arena lights dimmed. The voice boomed. Begin! Vordak charged. Jax moved. The spear twisted in his hand. Thrown, not stabbed, and clanged off the creature's skull with a sound like a gong. It did nothing. Vordak roared, closing the distance in a blink. One claw swiped for Jax's head. He ducked. The claw tore the air inches above him. Jax rolled forward, then leapt toward one of the wall panels. Thin, sharp metal designed to reflect light and distract. He yanked it free, turned. Just as Vordak lunged again, Jax slid under its legs and sliced at the back of its knee. Sparks flew. The beast howled. Pain. Real pain. Jax kept moving. The crowd had stopped laughing. There was a pause, a confusion spreading like fog. This wasn't survival instinct. This was strategy. Vordak turned. Slower now. Jax circled. He didn't attack. He waited, watched, calculated the limp in Vordak's stride, the frequency of its breaths, the droop in its left shoulder. The beast lunged again, too wide, too desperate. Jax ducked in, slammed the jagged panel into the soft joint behind Vordak's jaw. Twisted, wrenched. Blood, not red, but thick and black, sprayed across the sand. A shriek echoed, raw and alien. Vordak collapsed to one knee. Jax didn't hesitate. He ran, grabbed the discarded spear, and drove it deep into the exposed side of the creature's neck. The spearhead sparked once, then flared. For a moment, the arena was all light. When it faded, Vordak was still. The silence that followed was longer than any applause. Jax stood over the body, chest rising and falling, blood splattered across his face like war paint. He looked up at the crowd, not with pride, not with triumph, but with quiet defiance. He hadn't come to entertain them. He had come to win. The roar came slowly, building from a few confused voices to a tidal wave of disbelief. Cheers mixed with cries of outrage. Betting systems crashed. Commentators stuttered across a dozen worlds. Screens replayed the final moment on a loop. The human had won. In the box above, Warlord Kelvor leaned forward. His amusement was gone. Who authorized him? No one, sir. He volunteered. Entered through a sponsorship loophole. Kelvor's gaze narrowed. Earth? What the hell are they doing down there? Jax turned away from the corpse and walked slowly to the edge of the arena. As he did, he raised a hand, not to wave, not to boast, but simply to shield his eyes from the artificial sun overhead. A subtle gesture. But in that moment, captured by every camera, it looked like the gesture of a man who had just claimed something. Not survival. Dominance. Backstage, a few technicians watched the replay in stunned silence. He's not augmented. Clean scan. No implants. Just baseline human. Then how did he win? The tech shrugged. You ever seen a cornered animal fight? No, that wasn't desperation. That was planning. In the quiet of his holding chamber, Jack sat on a metal bench and cleaned the blood from his hands with a piece of torn cloth. A medic offered him a stim shot. He declined. He didn't say a word, but his eyes were already looking ahead. Another gate, another fight, another chance to remind the galaxy that Earth, forgotten and mocked, still had teeth. And far away, in a bar on the outer rim, someone whispered into a comm, "The human lived." The reply came sharp and fast. "Keep watching. He's just getting started." The moment Jax Carter walked back through the tunnel, the scent of scorched blood still clinging to him, the entire energy of the arena had changed. No longer was he the punchline of an interstellar joke. No longer was he the primitive earthling doomed to die for ratings. Now he was a problem, a disruption, something the galaxy hadn't prepared for. Inside the holding quarters, silence followed him like a shadow. The other fighters, species engineered for war, clad in biologically reactive armor, boasting claws and venom, watched it with a mix of contempt and curiosity. One leaned forward, a creature of shifting crystal plates, and a voice that sounded like breaking glass. "That wasn't chance," it rasped. "You meant to do that." Jack said nothing. He sat, stretched his legs, and adjusted the crude bandage wrapped around his shoulder. The wound throbbed, but it would hold. The pain was grounding, a reminder that he was still human. The next match was already posted. Jax versus the Tricarn Syndicate. Not one opponent. 3. Siblings bred in a gravity crucible, fused with cybernetic neural relays. They fought as one, thought as one, unbeaten in 10 matches. They had been scheduled for a championship bout. Now, they were being thrown at Jax like a test. The announcers were already spinning it. Let's see if the human can think faster than a machine-linked triad. The crowd was torn. Some were hungry to see him fall. Others had tasted the thrill of the unexpected and wanted more. In the control room, Arena Director Volatek watched the footage of Jax's first victory for the 5th time. "No enhancements," she said to her assistant. "A floating AI node named Crix. No tech support. No off-world training. Just instinct." Crix pulsed orange. He sees patterns. Uses chaos. Adapts. Volatek narrowed her eyes. He's too dangerous to ignore, but too valuable to eliminate. Jack spent the next hours alone, running simulations in his mind. He knew nothing about his next opponents beyond a grainy replay and some whispered rumors, but he didn't need details. He only needed to know how they moved, how they reacted. Everything had a rhythm, and rhythm could be broken. The time came quickly. He stood once again in the center of the arena, the floor beneath him shifting from sand to polished obsidian, reflective and smooth. This time, there was no laughter, only tense anticipation. The audience had remembered how to be quiet. The gate across from him opened. The Tricarn emerged, 3 bodies connected by an ethereal web of energy, each step in perfect synchronization. They moved like dancers, lethal and fluid. Their weapons were extensions of themselves, blade arms, shock lances, neural disruptors that shimmered with invisible charge. Jax's only gear was a modified stun baton, salvaged from a maintenance unit. It looked pathetic compared to their armory. The chimes sounded. No ceremony. No pause. The Tricarn attacked. They split on impact, one high, one low, one straight. Jax twisted, dodged the first arc, flipped backward from the sweep, and barely deflected the third. Sparks erupted as their weapons met the floor where he'd been a second before. The crowd roared. Jax didn't stop moving. He darted between them, striking at limbs, trying to disrupt their link. They adapted instantly. For every move he made, they adjusted with one better. Their coordination was terrifying. Jax's baton cracked against one helmet. No damage. A blade caught his leg, shallow but burning. He gritted his teeth and pressed in. Then he noticed it. Half a second delay when they turned. Just the faintest hesitation between the one on the left and the others. A weakness. He shifted his strategy. Danced toward the left fighter. Baited an attack. Then twisted and forced him into an awkward position. The delay widened. Jax struck again hard, right at the junction node on the shoulder. Sparks. A scream. The link flickered. In that moment, Jax surged. He spun, dropped low, drove his baton into the spine of the center fighter, whose reflexes lagged by milliseconds. The third tried to cover, but their symmetry was broken. Chaos had found its way in. Jax exploited it mercilessly. Within minutes, all three were down, alive, but disarmed, disoriented, disconnected. Silence. Then thunder. The arena erupted as though it had witnessed a god rise from the dirt. A human, outnumbered and outgunned, had dismantled one of its most terrifying triads with nothing but observation and resolve. Jax stood in the middle of it all, chest heaving, blood running freely down one arm. But his eyes were calm, focused, still analyzing, still learning. Back in the observation tower, Volatek turned to Crix. We need to know everything. What he eats, how he trains, what he dreams. Crix pulsed. We've already begun. In the med bay, while his wounds were sealed, Jax finally spoke. No upgrades. No enhancements. I want to stay baseline. The medic frowned. You won't survive the next round without help. I didn't survive this one with help. He left before she could argue. In the corridors, whispers followed him. Fighters began to nod as he passed, not in friendship, but in recognition. He had crossed a line. He was no longer prey. One, a scarred reptilian giant with eyes like molten silver, approached him. They say you're lucky. Jax looked up. Then they don't understand how I fight. The giant chuckled. I do. See you soon, Earthman. The next match wasn't posted yet. Jax knew it would be worse. Each win made the organizers more desperate to break him, to prove that he was an anomaly, not a new standard. But something had changed in him, too. Not just resolve, but a shift deep in his bones. An awareness that he wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. Somewhere in the crowd, people were watching and thinking, if he can do that, maybe we can too. Back on Earth, barely connected to the galactic grid, the broadcast reached a hidden bunker where a group of retired soldiers watched in stunned silence. One of them, gray-bearded and scarred, leaned forward. That's Carter. He's still alive. Another lit a cigar. He's not just alive. He's starting a fire. The system was watching. The arena was shifting. And Jax Carter, once a joke, now a name burned into the minds of billions, walked alone to metallic halls, his shadow long and deliberate. He hadn't come to be remembered, but memory, it seemed, had other plans. They brought in the champion next. Not a machine hybrid, not a collective mind, not some genetically tailored monster grown in a vat of spite and steroids. Just a warrior. Her name was Arwax Thou, a veteran of 67 wins, 0 losses. She wore armor laced with ion-reactive tendrils and wielded a weapon forged from the core of a dying moon. Her species was unknown to most, a mystery even in the age of deep scans. Some said she was part of a forgotten war cult, exiled beyond the event horizon of a black star. Others whispered that she was bred from a species that believed pain was enlightenment. None of it mattered. The only truth was this: RYX didn't lose. Jax Carter knew the moment he saw her file, minimal, redacted, and yet somehow still terrifying, that this would be different. Not just a battle, a reckoning. The match was scheduled for 3 days after his defeat of the Tricarn Syndicate. Just enough time to heal the flesh, not the mind. He trained in silence, not with simulations, but by watching footage of her fights. Again and again, RYX never struck first. She waited, let her opponent define the shape of the duel. Then she dismantled them with mathematical precision. Every move had intention. Every hesitation was a trap. And yet, something in her eyes during those replays caught his attention. Not bloodlust, not joy, loneliness. The arena was packed when the day came. Viewership across the galactic network broke records. Even worlds in civil conflict paused their battles to broadcast a match. A human, with no enhancements, no house backing him, was now facing the indomitable RYX Thal. The outcome wasn't just a curiosity. It was a statement. Jack stood in the dark chamber beneath the arena, flexing his fingers as the adrenaline seeped into his limbs. Across from him, his gear-weighted, upgraded armor. He declined it. A plasma bow. He refused it. He kept only a short, double-edged blade. Steel, primitive, familiar. I assume you're not trying when the fan's over. A voice said behind him. He turned. Volatek, the arena director, stood there with arms folded and no hint of emotion on her sharp face. They won't cheer you if you die in 3 seconds, she added. I'm not here for cheers, Jack said. Then what are you here for? He considered the question, then turned and walked toward the gate, reminding them. The gate opened, and the roar hit like a physical force. Across the arena, RYX stepped forward, her movements fluid, her armor humming with contained power. She tilted her head slightly when she saw Jax's choice of weapon. No grand speech, no mocking commentary, only the quiet recognition of a man who refused to play by the rules. The floor beneath them shifted to black glass laced with reactive circuitry. Lightning arced in small bursts. The crowd silenced as the arena AI announced a start. And then they moved. Not a charge, not a scream, just motion. Jax closed the distance fast, blade low, aiming for her midsection. RYX parried effortlessly. Her counter a blur of precision that left a shallow gash across his shoulder. Pain flared, but he welcomed it. He wanted to feel the weight of each decision. They circled, blades clashing, feet dancing on electric glass. He studied her rhythm. It was perfect, too perfect. Every reaction was optimized, trained, calculated. And yet, it wasn't adaptable. She was a fortress, unbreachable. But fortresses, he knew, weren't built for chaos. He changed tempo, sloppy footwork, wild swing, a stumble. RYX struck, instinctively, and Jax twisted, letting her blade graze past him, then reverse his weight and slammed a knee into her chest. The impact staggered her for half a second, enough for him to slice at her thigh, carving into the weak joint between plates. Blood, not red, but silver, splattered across the arena floor. The crowd roared. RYX stepped back, surprised. She looked at him then, truly looked. For the first time, her eyes showed emotion. Not pain, not anger, curiosity. She lunged. This time, the duel became a blur of violence and thought. He abandoned defense, went on the attack. Pressure, missteps, feign hesitations, tools of psychological warfare. He wanted her to feel what it was to fight someone unpredictable, someone human. They clashed again and again. She drew blood. He did too. Neither gave ground. And then it happened. A mistimed block. Her blade locked with his. Their faces inches apart. Breaths ragged. You're not like them, she whispered. Neither are you, he said. She pushed back hard, launching them both apart. For a moment, neither moved. Jax felt his strength fading. His muscles screamed. His lungs burned. But inside, he smiled. This was the fight he'd come for. RYX removed her helmet and tossed it aside. The gesture sent a shock wave through the crowd. She never fought unshielded. Jax blinked confused. Then she lowered her weapon. The arena went silent. I yield, she said. Gasps echoed like thunder. The AI stuttered, confused. Clarify command? I yield. Our YX repeated, louder. He's already won. The lights froze. The crowd, millions strong, stood motionless. Jax took a step forward, blood trailing down his side. Why? You fight for something. Our YX said, I don't remember what that feels like. The match was called. Victory. Human. But no one cheered. Not right away. They didn't know how. Later, in a quiet corner of the medic ward, our YX sat beside him while machines repaired their wounds. I spent years believing strength was survival, she said. Now I wonder if strength is a refusal to become what they want. Jax didn't answer. He didn't have to. Outside the arena, a ripple had begun. A warrior undefeated had chosen surrender. A human had inspired her to remember what choice even meant. And somewhere in the shadows, those who watched the games not for entertainment, but for control, began to worry, because legends were hard to predict. But revolutions, they were impossible to stop. The storm came quietly. No announcement, no ceremony. Just a sudden shift in the air, a silence beneath the usual mechanical hum of the arena complex. Even the spectators, billions of them spread across galaxies, felt it. Something had changed, but no one knew what. Jax Carter did. He woke before the lights rose, instinct screaming, muscles still sore from his fight with RYX. The air was colder than it should have been. The halls were emptier, too quiet. When he stepped into the corridor, a message flickered across the hollow panel. All matches suspended. All fighters detained for evaluation. It wasn't punishment. It was containment. After RYX's surrender, the system hadn't known what to do. For 1,000 years, the arena had been a machine. Blood in, profit out. Spectacle governed the galaxy's economy of distraction. But a human, fragile, mortal, unaltered, had beaten it. Not just by winning, by changing those it couldn't control. They locked him in Isolation Unit 9B. No windows, no weapons, no clock. Jax didn't ask questions. He waited, breathed, counted every second in his head, tracking time by instinct. Days passed, maybe more. He didn't break. Then they sent someone. She wasn't security. No armor, no implants. Just a woman in a deep blue coat, skin shimmering like dusk. Her voice, when she spoke, was too calm. My name is Saran Kale. I'm a representative of the Arena Council's Oversight Division. Jax didn't stand. Let me guess. You're here to figure out what makes me dangerous. She smiled faintly. I already know that. I'm here to offer solution. No thanks. You haven't heard it yet. I don't need to. She stepped closer. You've embarrassed powerful people. Your refusal to die, to lose, to conform, it's triggered instability. Already, multiple systems are experiencing unrest. Soldiers question orders. Fighters want autonomy. You're not just a legend, Jax. You're a virus. He leaned forward, eyes steady. And you're afraid of infection. No, she said. I'm afraid of how far they'll go to stop it. She projected a hologram, an image of Earth, surrounded by red tactical outlines. They're considering making an example of your planet. He didn't move, didn't blink, but the blood in his veins turned ice. You have two choices, Saran said. Publicly forfeit all future matches and denounce your victories as anomalies, or watch them turn your home into a warning. For the first time since entering the arena, Jax felt the weight of fear, not for himself, for everything he'd ever loved. The dirt roads, the mountain winds, the way coffee tasted when shared with someone who listened. You won't get away with this, he said. Saran tilted her head. Haven't we already? Then she left him alone again. That night, they moved him to a new cell. Cleaner, softer. A message flashed across the wall. Press conference in 12 hours. Prepare statement. He sat on the cot, gripping the edges, jaw clenched so tightly it ached. He didn't sleep. The press conference was to be staged in the Grand Hall, a place reserved for champions. Cameras floated like stars. A crowd of delegates, sponsors, and carefully chosen spectators filled the terraces. When Jack stepped onto the stage, everything was ready. Podium, script, lights calibrated to highlight his expressions just enough to make them believable. He stared at the speech they gave him. Denouncements, apologies, a vow to retire. Then he looked up and saw RYX in the crowd. She stood at the back, arms folded, still as a blade before the strike. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Jax knew. He stepped to the podium, cleared his throat. "I've been asked to make a statement," he began. The room stilled. He lifted the paper, then dropped it. "No." Gasps echoed. "I won't pretend this was a mistake. I won't call my victories luck. I won't walk away so you can keep pretending the system is unbreakable." Security began to shift, murmurs turning to warnings. He raised his voice. "I'm not the strongest, not the fastest, but I fought because I had no choice. And when I started winning, I realized none of you do either. You're just waiting for permission to disobey." Chaos erupted. Saran rose, shouting orders. Guards surged forward. But something unexpected happened. The lights went dark. A new voice boomed through the arena. "We stand with the human." The screens lit up, not with council feeds, but with hack signals from across the galaxy. Fighters, veterans, workers, entire colonies. They'd watched, and they'd decided. From the rafters, RYX dropped, armor gleaming, weapon drawn. She landed beside Jax. "You ready to do more than survive?" she asked. Jax smiled. "Always." The arena exploded into panic. Council members fled. Alarms screamed. But the broadcast continued. Every camera, every drone relaying a revolution in real time. Later, no one could say where the first shot came from. But when it was over, the arena was no longer a symbol of control. It was a monument to defiance. And in the center of it all stood the man who'd entered it as a joke. The one who refused a break. The one who reminded the galaxy what it meant to choose. Jax Carter. Legend. Spark. Beginning.